We're constantly asked at Hotspotting whether it's better to invest in the regions or the capital cities, and whether you get higher capital growth in the outer ring suburbs of our cities or the so-called prime inner city locations. Now, there's no definitive answer to questions like that because there are so many different scenarios to consider, and at the end of the day it comes down to the performance of individual local markets, and you simply can't generalise. But based on the evidence of where the highest capital growth has occurred in the past 4 years, I'd have to say that the best performers have been found in regional areas and the outer ring precincts of capital cities, not including Sydney or Melbourne. PropTrack, which is Hotspotting's preferred source of property data, has analysed capital growth since March 2020, which is when the COVID lockdown started to happen. And it shows that home prices have increased 40% in the 4 years since. That's the average increase across Australia. But the growth in the combined regional areas has been 54%, compared with 35% in the combined capital cities. So there is your first answer. Based on this evidence, the regions have outperformed the cities overall. Now, when you divide Australia into the 15 major jurisdictions, that's 8 capital cities and 7 state or territory regional areas, the top 2 areas are regional and 6 of the top 9 are regional precincts. Regional Queensland ranks number 1 with home values up 66.5%, followed closely by regional South Australia, which was up 66.2%. The next on the list are Adelaide in 3rd place, Brisbane 4th and Perth 5th. And note that, contrary to media rhetoric, Perth is not the leading growth market. Then in order after that come regional Western Australia, regional Tasmania, regional New South Wales, regional Victoria, and in 10th place the ACT, Canberra. You'll note that those are the top 10 of the list of 15 jurisdictions, and Sydney and Melbourne haven't featured yet. Sydney in fact ranks 12 out of the 15 and Melbourne ranks 14th, or second last. So there's a fairly emphatic answer as well. The regions have undoubtedly outperformed the cities, and the best performers amongst the cities don't include the 2 biggest ones. Adelaide home prices increased 64% and Brisbane 63% to be the strongest capital cities on capital growth over 4 years, compared with just 35% in Melbourne and a meagre 17% in Melbourne. When PropTrack looked at the individual locations within the regions and the cities, the top 10 list of locations for capital growth in the past 4 years comprised regional centres and the outer ring areas of capital cities. The so-called prime inner city areas do not feature on this list. The Wide Bay region of Queensland was the top individual area for price performance, with values up 80% in 4 years. This notable region includes regional centres like Hervey Bay, Bundaberg, Gympie and Kingaroy, all places which have featured in recent years in our hotspots reports. Next was Ipswich City in the outer southwest of Greater Brisbane, followed by the outer north of Greater Adelaide. Both were up by more than 75%. And at Hotspotting, we have strongly advocated Ipswich and the northern Adelaide local government areas like Salisbury, Playford and Gawler in the past several years. Fourth on this list was the Gold Coast, which rose 74% in the 4 years. It's notable that 9 of the 10 locations on the national top 10 list are all in Queensland and South Australia, and that might surprise a lot of people. And here's a final thought. What I've just described is what's happened in the past 4 years, but there's no guarantee that the same will happen in the next 4 years. As we often tell people, the past does not inform the future. But it is worth noting that, based on the metrics we use at Hotspotting, we do expect Brisbane, regional Queensland and Adelaide to be amongst the best performers on price in the next year or so.